What I want to do is I would like to introduce Peter Napolitano as our next mayor of the city of Everett.
We'll make sure that the headquarters has stayed open every weekday and Saturdays since we opened started this endeavor back in May. Now, it's funny, I originally got into politics 16 years ago. I had a confrontation with the previous administration, not in this room, and it got to the point where I came home one day from the store one day and I said to my wife, "That's it, I'm done complaining. We're either selling the house, selling the business, and moving out, or I'm going to stick my neck out and see what I can do." So of course my wife, as she always does, went like this. And I jumped in. Learned a lot. Took me 4 years before I got elected to the city council. And I did have the honor of serving with Bob Van Kampen and Peter Sinelli, Steve Sinelli's dad. I served with some great people. And during those times, those 6 years that I spent, the next 6 years I spent on city council, I learned a lot about listening to the public. Listening to what you want. I've always felt that if I need to be able to look you in the eye. And if I can't do that, I can't look at myself in the eye when I'm looking in the mirror. Now, I need to know that you know that I'm doing everything I can on your behalf. You know, whether I agree with you or not, if I don't, I'm going to find the reasons why and go from there. But the nice thing about the city council at that time was that nothing was personal. Nothing was personal. We worked together. When we disagreed on the floor. But afterwards, it was never personal. Now, I was out of the city council for 2 years. My last attempt at a citywide election. And I almost didn't come back. And two very special people, one who's gone now. I don't know if any of you know Jackie Doyle, also known as Red. I remember him coming over to Sovereign Bank when I worked over there in Revere and asking me, "Are you coming back? Are you going to come back to the city council?" And I said, "No, I'm done. I've had it. Not interested." He kept hammering me about that. And then I had a few people come up to me at church. Same thing. "Are you coming back? Are you coming back? Coming back?" And I reluctantly decided to come back. And I got to say, after getting back on the city council, it was a different feel. It was very incestuous. It was, you know, they had already planned out the next succession for the council presidents for the next 3 years. That's ridiculous. You can't do that. For 6 months of serving, my first 6 months back, all I kept saying to some of my colleagues was, "Why do they come back? Why am I doing this?" But then something would come up and I have an opportunity to talk and do some action for somebody and accomplish something. And that reminded me why I was coming back. And over time, and that's one of the reasons why, and I'll say this publicly, I owe Steve Simonelli. I was very harsh on him when I came back. Not because of anything he's doing, but I was just very disgusted with what I saw happening on the Common Council. And that's one of the reasons I get along so well with the Board of Aldermen. I've served directly with most of them during that period when there was a more focus on professionalism than there is currently in the Common Council. We found that there is a body of the Common Council that supports the mayor. I mean, come on. We only have one representative out of 17 others that turned out tonight. Okay? I can't speak to where they are, where they side on issues with the city, but I've never felt, at least in the recent year, that they're out there operating in your best interests. Okay? We passed a $139 million budget this year. Now, that's an obscene amount of money. Now, whenever an administration comes before the city council to pass a budget, the one thing they do is they expect that they're going to lose some things. Not this administration. We fought to cut $1.2 million out of what was called a capital improvement plan. This was the mayor's big plan to do sidewalks all over the city. Now, it's amazing that this is all happening on an election year. But we fought. Members of the Board of Aldermen, myself, Rosemary Miller, a few others on the Common Council, only a few. And when we talked about cutting that money, the mayor's response to us was, "Well, you know, $1 million is an insignificant amount of money." Now let me ask you, to who? You know, The interest on $1 million is not an insignificant amount of money. You know? I mean, this is a man who has, and I don't fault him for this. He's been very fortunate. He married into money. You know? His wife owns the Honeydew Donuts. Let's not play games. He doesn't own the Honeydew Donuts. His wife owns Honeydew Donuts. But he's been given a business. He's never had to, who comes before the city council. She came before the city council this summer. Now the mayor came and had a plan that he could not hire a city auditor for $82,000 a year. Would any of you work for that amount of money?
Yeah.
Okay. He could not hire a city auditor for $82,000 a year, so instead he came before us to propose that we create a chief financial officer position who'll do the same work for $100,000 to $140,000 a year. Does that make sense to you?
No.
Now I thanked the chief of staff for all the information she gave, and I explained to her how I disagreed with it. But then I asked her, I asked her a couple of questions. I asked her, this is a very important project. Oh yeah, it's a very important project. And mayor expects us to pass this tonight. Yeah, the mayor expects to pass this tonight. Okay, great. Then I just got one other question for you. Where's the mayor?
Yeah.
You could hear a pin drop in the room. The mayor had not been before the Common Council in 11 months. Because he has his little votes lined up on the Common Council. Now he doesn't do that with the Board of Aldermen, because the Board of Aldermen will challenge him. They'll ask the questions. He doesn't have a choice, and he knows that if he just sends his chief of staff to do that, they're not going to let him get away with it. And they haven't, and I applaud them for that. I do.